I first heard today's guest, Dr. Amna Shabbir, a primary care internist, geriatrician, and certified life coach, on our companion podcast, RX for Success, episode 210, where she shared her inspiring path into medicine. What struck me most was a small segment of her story, one that I think so many physicians will identify with. After years of training and a promising start in primary care, Dr. Shabbir found herself exhausted, heartbroken, and questioning whether she could stay in medicine at all. There are times in our lives that change the way we see the world. Navigating these challenges can take insight, trusted confidants, or even a coach. Let's explore those moments. In this companion podcast to RX for Success, we will discover ways to learn and write our own success stories together. I'm Dr. Dael Waxman, a physician coach with MD Coaches, and this is Life-Changing Moments. Rather than walk away, she discovered a spark, caring for older adults, that led her to reinvent her career in geriatrics. In today's episode, we'll hone in on that turning point. How do you know when it's time to pivot? What gets in the way? And what makes forward movement possible? If you've ever felt stuck in medicine, this conversation is for you. So, Dr. Amna Shabbir, welcome to Life-Changing Moments.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Waxman.
And like Randy in RX for Success, our preference in MD Coaches is for us to be referring to each other by first names, if that's okay with you.
That sounds wonderful to me.
Okay, great. So we're using the RX for Success podcast with Dr. Cook that was recently dropped onto the internet maybe last couple months. Well, I think it was within the last month. As a springboard, there's a story within that lent itself very well to life-changing moments where we explore kind of inflection points in people's lives. And so not everybody will have heard that. So I want us to, just a little bit of background. But first of all, where are you located geographically and what's your situation there?
I'm based in the Triangle region of North Carolina, so Raleigh, North Carolina.
Great. And tell us a little bit about what are you doing occupationally right now?
I am a geriatrics internal medicine physician. I'm also a master certified professional coach. I have recently given a TEDx talk, and I'm working on a project on perfectionism that is really my focus right now. So working on my book on that. Other than that, I am always occupied with my persistent role with gratitude as a mother. So that keeps me super busy.
Yeah. I knew about the TEDx talk. Tell me, how did that go, by the way?
It was a very humbling experience. It went well, and it really just brought so many different kinds of experiences further into my life. So I'm very, very grateful for that.
For our listeners, what was the topic of the TEDx talk?
The topic's title is Perfectionism Has a Solution. It's Not What You Think.
Nice. And so I know perfectionism is an area that you're very invested in and in helping people through that. And if it's okay, in our show notes, if we can get the link to the TEDx, that would be great. So people may be really interested in that.
I'd be happy to share.
That's awesome. One of the things that was striking in the RX for Success podcast was how well supported you felt during residency and how excellent an experience that was. And then there is this primary care thing that seemed a little bit less than that. So let me just ask, when you first started, when you're heading into a primary care practice, what did you expect it would look like? And then what did you actually encounter?
That's a great question, Dale. So I expected it was going to be hard. I expected a lot of things that I would have to do, and recognizing that in the traditional healthcare system, we have constraints. I didn't know how hard the actual hard was going to be. So a couple of pointers. First of all, 9 to 5 is not a thing. The amount of normalized unpaid work for traditional primary care physicians is ridiculous. I say normalized because anybody who says anything about it is told to just relax. Like everyone is miserable, so you shouldn't even raise your voice up. So that was number one surprise. Like I did sign up to work really hard, but I didn't know that I would be working offline at night all the time. That's number one. Number two, the system does not allow for doctors to practice to their full license. So the amount of work that I was doing that was non-clinical, unrelated to practicing to my scope of medicine, all those clicks and all of those things that we know add to our, that injure us morally, that was a lot. Number three, I would say that there is an expectation mismatch between society and what primary care physicians are expected to do and what they do. And doctors are the easiest to blame, and they bear the brunt of so much because they are front facing. Our patients don't know all the things that are going at the back end for most of the part, and we don't do a good job educating them. And then we pretend that we have all the solutions and answers. We don't. So trying to be a perfectionist in medicine lands us into all kinds of trouble because of that expectation mismatch. Number four, I would say that we are, as physicians, are expected to show humanity, but not be human, which goes in alignment with all the other points that I've made, because humans need sleep, they need rest, they need connection, they have families, women need to have children, they want to have children. And lastly, humans make mistakes. None of this is possible in the real life. The expectation and realities don't match because I'm supposed to be flawless as a physician and specifically in all the roles. But you know, the wonderful statement that is refer to PCP. Well, the PCP is supposed to have answers to everything, and which is a lot all the time. And lastly, I would add the normalized gaslighting and opportunity blocking that happens when one wants to advocate for their patients but is not allowed to, again, because it's normalized. Getting on the phone and talking to other subspecialists and really advocating for my patients, it took a lot. Most of that work was done on the unpaid hours. So yeah, when you add all of it together, it becomes quite a bit.
Yeah. So as a retired primary care physician, you're triggering a lot of my memories and experiences. And you articulated it very well. And I'm hoping that some people are hearing this. And I also know that because of some of the work that you've done actually on the state level here in North Carolina, there are changes that are happening for all physicians, but especially for some primary care physicians, and things are changing.
We'll get back to our interview in just a moment, but first, I'd like to share a message from Navigate. After spending years in the financial sector, Navigate has met lots of clients with all kinds of student loan issues. They were confused, they were overwhelmed by the doublespeak and the overly complex forms, and especially the deliberately misleading statements from loan servicer representatives. Navigate recognized the chaos in the student loan industry and immediately brought clarity and real solutions. If you'd like to flip the script on student debt, visit www.flipthescript.loan/MD-coaches to schedule a call with Navigate. They'll tailor a plan specifically for your unique situation and work with you until the loan is paid off. What do you have to lose besides the stress of student loan debt?
Hi, I'm Rhonda Crow, founder and CEO for MD Coaches. Here on RX for Success, we interview a lot of great medical professionals on how they grew their careers, how they overcame challenges, and how they handle day-to-day work. I really hope you're getting a lot of great information. But if you're looking for an answer to a specific problem, management or administration challenge, or if you're feeling just a bit burnt out, like maybe you chose the wrong career, well, then there's a faster way to get the help you need. No, it's not counseling, it's coaching. RX for Success is produced by MD Coaches, a team of physicians who have been where you are. I know you're used to going it alone, but you don't have to. Get the support you need today Visit us at mymdcoaches.com to schedule your complimentary consultation. Again, that's mymdcoaches.com, because you're not in this alone.
We'll get back to our conversation in just a moment, but first, I want to mention a sponsor who has been with us almost since our beginning. Physician Outlook is a splendid publication created for physicians by physicians. Originally a print and online magazine, it's now a dynamic digital-only platform using storytelling, humor, and community building to help physicians and surgeons reconnect with the art of medicine. Physician Outlook celebrates the entire healthcare team, including nurses, nurse practitioners, and PAs who value physician-led care. As artificial intelligence and corporate overreach threatens the human connection, Physician Outlook remains committed to the sacred physician-patient relationship. Beyond storytelling, Physician Outlook takes action on causes that matter. So join the movement, connect, laugh, be inspired. Visit physicianoutlook.com today. And now let's get back to our interview.
Those are all factual things, and it'd be easy for us to imagine the impact that had on you. But can you share more about what impact did that have on you?
The biggest impact that it had on me was this detachment from reality, and then I'm beating myself up in that state of detachment. So what I would say is, when someone has to work this much all the time and ignore their personal needs persistently, constantly to show up fully as a physician, it takes a toll on you. And the depletion and the exhaustion is so deep. You're tired, but then you're so surprised at why are you so tired, because everyone around you has normalized this exhaustion. So why are you so weak? Why can't you just show up and keep going? And I think that was the biggest point of reflection for me. I grew up in a dual physician household. You work hard. Hard work is a really important, what I would say, family value that was cultivated in me. But the fact that I'm a human being and I needed rest and sleep, it became quite apparent to me that, yeah, I do need those things, but there was no space for that. And so when I became that depleted and I was unable to rest, it was a vicious cycle that I was stuck in and constantly blaming myself for feeling this way.
Yeah, there's this ill feeling, a dis-ease, if you will, not a disease, but a dis-ease, but also a dis-ease with what's wrong with me, because everybody else seems to be doing okay with it. And you described this feeling as heartbreak, not burnout. What do you mean by heartbreak?
Practicing traditional primary care feels like you're constantly drowning while the world is yelling at you for what a terrible job that you're doing, but also make sure that you find work-life balance, and then you're yelling at yourself. So it's this feeling of constantly being suffocated, and time poverty is very real till you actually recognize your agency, that you can actually say no and you can stand your ground, that the system will try to continuously drown you. But when I say all of this, I want people to know I've never been a problem child. I was the classic good girl, smooth sailing through medical school, best team player during residency, and all the great things in the right situations. I was never in detention. I did everything right, but at the end, I felt like I could not breathe. And that is heartbreak to me, that you delay gratification, you delay everything. You give this art and science of medicine, this is a way of being. You give it everything. But then you realize that this is not a faithful relationship. Your heart will break into a million pieces because you've invested so much. And anytime you stand up for anything, whether it's your own rest, whether it's for your patients, whether it is just to whisper no, you experience this instant, why are you standing up? The courage it takes to stand up it's so difficult to get to that phase for the first step, right? There is so much shame. There's so much gaslighting. You have to battle your own inner critic, and then you become exhausted beyond measure. Loving your profession does not feel that way. It should not feel that way. And so when love hurts like this, I would say it's a heartbreak. And so for me, I felt this deep ache. I literally felt this deep ache both in my body because I was so depleted, so exhausted. And I felt so disillusioned, disconnected. And that is what I would summarize as heartbreak.
Yeah. Thank you. You articulate that really well. And so I want to get us out of that. And so, because it'd be easy to sort of get mired down with that. And so something shifted for you around moving in a different direction. Can you say something about what were some of the early things that shifted for you and what did you do about those?
I think before I jump into that, and we definitely need to jump there, I will say when your suffering is unwitnessed, which is what a lot of healthcare workers and physicians and clinicians at large feel right now, that my suffering that I'm going through is not witnessed by anybody and that I'm just another number, just another person, that adds to the suffering. And so when we talk about these things, Dr. Waxman or Dael, we actually normalize that experience for so many humans. And so it's okay if you're feeling that way. I just want to say this to whoever's listening. I see you, and you're not alone. There are so many humans that are out there to help who can witness your suffering. You matter. So that's number one. And that right there was the point where I could see, oh, things can change. And so for this, I have two quotes that are my favorite. I will first start us off by something that James Baldwin has said, and I love that. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it's faced. And so for me, that process of facing the reality that I was in was really critical. And so let me set up the context a little bit more. So I'm an early career physician. I am at that time, I had one daughter when I started primary care practice. Then I had my second daughter during this time. Was recovering from my first bout of postpartum depression. When my second daughter came along the way, I was already burnt out, and then I had postpartum depression. And moral injury was and continues to be a constant theme in the life of a healthcare worker. So that was all happening. And this is the context in which we have to find help. And it becomes extremely challenging to ask for help when you're that tired. You would rather just not even, what am I going to say? And who am I going to ask for help? All my colleagues were all suffering together. I used to say this to myself. I'm not a special snowflake, just tough it up, just go. And it became very challenging. And I talk about how I lied on my PHQ-9s, how I did not ask for help. So it became quite dark before, as they say, it got better. And I didn't have that one moment, which was, it was a glorious moment that I just jumped over some invisible barrier and I'm on the other side. It literally started by whispering for help. Asking for help is a tremendous act of courage. And it is so hard because there's so much fear attached to it. And we're both members of the consortium. I'm an ambassador for Dr. Lorna Breen Harris Foundation. I'm so glad for the work that we're doing in reducing that stigma and shame surrounding asking for help. But that was step number one. There is no way you can ask for help without facing. So that's where that quotation came into my mind. And I continue to lean into that. You have to face what you're going through. And alongside that was this deep recognition that there's no one else that is coming to save me. There's no one else coming to save me. I matter deeply to these children that I have birthed consciously. They're there in my life. If I fall off the face of the earth, this hospital system will continue to function and nobody else is coming to save me. I have to ask for help. So I'm repeating this constantly because somebody out there needs to listen to this message before you can jump into here are the 3 hacks that you can take. This is not about that. Your healing cannot be dumbed into hacks. You have to open yourself up to receive and you have to ask for help. So that's number one. And after that is this other amazing quote that I love by Marian Edelman, which is, you can't be what you can't see. And all I saw around me was tired human beings that were suffering, that needed help. So I needed to go somewhere else. And when I'm asking for help in that process, I'm so glad I first asked for help in space of pharmacotherapy with my primary care physician, and that was needed at that time. And I also sought counseling, and I was getting coached. Coaching has helped me in so many tremendous ways. So I'm saying all of these things because sometimes people think, oh, it's just this one thing. And then when you start that one thing, you put so much pressure on yourself. Well, I enrolled in this program. I better be good by the next hour. Like this better be solved in the next hour. You have to go into healing with an open mind, but nothing will ever happen. No change will come into your life till you first face the problem, realize there's nobody else coming to save you, and then go ask for help.
It's a process, and it requires some self reflection and self awareness and some self acknowledgement of this is where I am. And thank you. You answered some of the questions I had. Was so who did you turn to for help? And as you know, healthcare professionals are often very reluctant to ask for help, and so really grateful that you shared openly about the three different places that you turn to. Maybe not all the same week, probably not all the same week, but your own primary care physician, counseling as well as coaching, which is awesome. In that turning to people for help, what did you learn about what needed to happen for you for next steps for yourself, and what maybe was getting in the way of you exiting, if you will?
It's a great question, and I'll set the stage for, again, I love to talk in context and not just the content of things, because we have to look at human beings in our journeys, because we put, again, so much pressure on ourselves. I have to figure this out in the next hour, the next week, whatever. So when I realized the full context of my existence, I had to honor the many roles that I found myself in. In the moment, I was an early career physician. I was a mom of two beautiful young children. I was also finding my house. I'm trying to buy my first home. I've moved across states. I am also dealing with postpartum depression. I'm also dealing with this deep exhaustion and depletion. So when I fully acknowledge who I am and added to all of that, I am a South Asian woman, like all of those layers and parts of my identity that I had completely put on one side, and my sole experience and focus at that time as an early career physician was to be the best early career physician, be the best primary care doctor out there. But when I put that pressure on me, this is all about realizing that we have 24 hours in the day. None of us is going to get another extra hour. And what am I going to do in that 24 hours with all my roles, and what roles are carrying significance and importance in this season of my life? Once I got radically clear on that, I was able to move forward, because and I didn't just sit. Again, all those three people that I reached out for help didn't happen in the same week, the same day. It was a process that was staggered. There were other events that are for other conversations that happened in between all of those occurrences of asking for help. And I didn't come up with this radical clarity on my own, because when you are so close to a problem, you're unable to see that problem fully. And that was a step-by-step recognition that happened. But most importantly, in this entire process, I will credit coaching, because it allowed me to step away and create a plan where I was able to completely see all my blind spots. Commonly, people have heard the term limiting beliefs, how I was getting in my own way, but also having a physician coach help me recognize that I cannot gaslight myself in places where I was. Like I was gaslighting myself. I went to my coach and I wanted her to coach me out of the need for sleep, which is like, why do I need to sleep? If we could just get rid of this problem, and I see all these other doctors around me, they sleep for 3 hours, they have great lives. And I'm saying this in a funny way, but that's what a lot of us think. And I was not able to see that that was a blind spot. I just needed to get rid of all these things that were just basic human needs. And I talk a lot about perfectionism, as I mentioned earlier. That all this in the social context, I was expected to show up very perfectly by society, by the culture in medicine, and whether we say the culture at large in the world today, when we look within the confines of social media, also my identity as a South Asian woman, all these roles that I possess, like I should be a perfect mother, the perfect doctor, the perfect daughter, wife, daughter-in-law, you name all the roles. I probably have left quite a few, and when they'll listen to the recording, they might get angry. But I love all my roles, but I can't show up in all my roles 100% all the time. And yet that's the expectation that is put on me by society. I'm not going to take full responsibility that I am the only one putting this on myself, but I did recognize that there was a component both of myself, society, all of it. So once I started bringing all of that into conscious awareness, and I realized I have the same 24 hours as everybody else and I have to rest, I was able to take clear action moving forward. But that clarity took a while, and it's a process of evolution.
It sounds to me like the clarity came with the witnessing, if you will. It was raising your own awareness through the people you turn to for help. A great example of working with your coach around wanting the coach to help you not have to sleep. And fortunately, the coach went, wait a minute, that's not, let's look at that. Like, what is that? What's that about? So it's this iterative process of you really examining who is this person who is here, and did the me get lost somewhere along the way with all of these role expectations and training and all that stuff? So it was this process of raising some self-awareness and getting to know who you are again. So it sounds to me like that process was happening before you made any changes, professional changes. Is that accurate?
It is accurate. And I think that the 5 stages of change really apply to my life multiple times in different ways. So the pre-contemplation and contemplation and preparation was going on for a while before I moved forward. But as high achievers, as physicians, we're risk averse. Like, this was not Amna just sitting in a lotus position or running through fields of flowers, which, I mean, I love that visual. This was just me still showing up at my clinical work, doing my work as a primary care physician. The first thing we always do is we try to make it work. That's what we do. That's what we're trained to do. I want to make this thing that really hurts, that's breaking me. I'm tired of doing it. I want to make it work, there's nothing wrong with that. But first thing was I really tried to make it work. I tried to apply principles of self-advocacy, but it became very clear to me that this is not what I needed to do in this season of my life. So the first thing was I tried to make it work. I am very risk averse. People don't talk openly about these kinds of things. I did suffer severely from sunk cost fallacy. I've trained so hard to get to this point. What am I going to walk away from all of this? So that was very much in top of my mind. I was also aware of the financial cost of, like, what is this going to look like? I was our primary breadwinner for my family at that time. What is this going to look like? And that constant voice, I'm not a quitter. We don't quit. I'm not a wilted flower. I'm not a special snowflake. I'm just forever who's thinking all these phrases. I can unclutch my pearls and just go to work. I don't have to be so dramatic. Why do I feel things so much? Why do other people? I have often said that I have not yet mastered the art of apathy. My patients really matter to me. And so when you see that you're trained to give care to your patients in a specific way and you're unable to do that, it hurts. And it still continues to hurt me. I have not mastered that. And I'm glad I haven't. So those were all the things that were going on in my mind. And I have a very harsh inner critic that has, I would say, recently softened up after a lot of intentional practice. And then with the help of my coach, with the help of my husband, with the help of reviewing financial spreadsheets, I was able to make calculated, clear decisions for what the next chapter of my life will look like.
Yeah, really appreciate your care and attention to all the background. You said it really well, which is it's not these simple hacks. It's a careful examination of all that. And it's really acknowledging that all of us who are making some shifts and changes, there's really a transformative process, and there's no easy, simple solution for this for every single person. So one of the reasons we're doing the show is there are several listeners out there who are in some ways experiencing the same thing that you experienced in that situation. And so, and a lot of them are like, I don't want to do medicine at all anymore. I want to go be air traffic controller, whatever that is. But whatever it is, so you said, I do still need to work. I still need to do something. How did you land where you landed? What brought you to, I'm still going to be in medicine, even though I've just had all these experiences. Can you share more about that?
Yeah, I think that you have to completely break down before you can build yourself back up. And I do remember that one day. That was not a transformation day, but that was the day I decided that I'm not going to do this anymore. I was depleted. I was tired. I cried a lot. I still had a full day of clinic left. So I saw my morning patients, cried over lunch, reapplied my mascara, and went back and I saw the rest of my patients. But that is the day I decided that something had to shift. I didn't know what it was going to be. So I did fantasize of all these other alternative roles that I could have, and none of them really I could actively pursue at that time. But I asked myself, do I want to walk completely away from medicine? Because that's how I felt. I felt that depleted. So the first step I did was I asked for some white space. So I rested, I slept, I went for a walk by myself, and I journaled. That was the first step. I was so tired, I needed sleep. Don't make any decisions sleep deprived for anyone listening. Once I had that moment of sleeping and talking to my coach, meanwhile I'm still getting help slowly, gradually. I asked myself what still gave me joy in medicine. There's something still in medicine. I love medicine. There's a reason I did it. It hurts a lot right now, but what still truly gives me joy? And the answer was actually taking care of my older adults. I was laughing at a patient that made me feel so good the day before, talking to the patient's families, complex medical care. The older they were, the more I truly enjoyed spending time with them. And so that came to me as an answer after I'm journaling, I'm resting, I'm talking to my coach. And so I decided to go in that direction. Now, becoming a fellow after being an attending for 4 years was definitely a different experience. You have to take other things into account, like I mentioned, finances, scheduling, and other things like even childcare. Now that you're going to be back on call, geriatrics call was hard for anybody who's listening, and I can see you roll your eyes. It's okay. It was hard coming on the weekend and actually rounding with my patients and putting myself back out there. Being vulnerable, being a trainee means you're going to be vulnerable, but I had so much more compassion for my attendings now that I had been on the other side. It was a process, but we want to take like 10 steps at the same time. People want 10-year plans. I wanted my life plan. I wanted everything to be clear. It doesn't work that way. You have to take that next step and you have to ask yourself, what's at stake? I'm going to continue to stay miserable and show up in the space that I am right now, or I'm being called towards something different. So it has to be a mixture. It shouldn't just be, I want to run away from this. It also has to be, I want to go towards this. And if you can't figure out what you want to go towards, then step away and rest. Make an educated, smart decision on how you can rest and reinvent and feel that pull towards something. It doesn't have to be that same thing, but don't just run away and go from one space to another. Now you take all your problems from point A to point B, and then you're like, well, I still feel so bad.
I once heard somebody share with me when I left a position because I'd gotten burned out. It was a mentor of mine, and he said, we were just sort of exploring my decision to leave, and I think he had some wisdom that I didn't really quite capture at the time because I was pretty young. And he said, my experience is that wherever you go, there you are. So if you don't examine the who am I, what am I about, what's really important to me, then the same mistakes can be made. And we're not talking about me right now, but that's actually exactly what happened. I went somewhere else and I made the same mistakes without doing that careful examination that you're talking about. I didn't rest. I was exhausted. I didn't rest. I didn't give myself some white space. So really awesome advice.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it's so important for all of us to hear that, Dale, that you went from one place to the other and without the examination, it didn't work out. So all of these are learning points. And so when we're vulnerable, we model our humanity, other humans learn. One of the things that I'll add over here is a critical tool that all physicians need to practice medicine in this day and age is radical self-advocacy. And you think that you'll wake up today and then you say, oh, I'm going to advocate for myself. But when I examined my entire experience, I realized that I had given up agency. And so when you give up agency, you give up any responsibility for change. And so that was one of the big things that I had to face and reclaiming my agency truly. And that didn't require that I had to get on top of a mountain and yell, I have agency again. It was this inner knowing that I have autonomy. I have choice, and recognizing that and learning specific tools to communicate that, to articulate that, to show up with confidence. That's a skill, and you can learn all those skills. And that's what I'm so glad that I invested in learning those skills. And when you take those skills and you go to a second role, and even in my role back as a trainee, I felt I had way more agency. And afterwards, those skills have continued. So radical self-advocacy is a critical skill that we all need to cultivate as physicians and clinicians and healthcare workers at large.
It's interesting you're saying that. And it's also, there's so many different ways that we could take this conversation. But one of the things that I read an article recently about residency does not train us for that radical self-advocacy. It trains us to be good soldiers, and to follow directions and to go in the direction that the attendings tell us to go. So a really important piece, and it takes some other people to help us understand what that means to be our own self-advocate. So thank you for that.
I love that example because there's so little that we can do during medical training. So one part of being a good soldier is a good thing. We are taking care of our patients.
Sure.
We want to make safe decisions, right? But another thing that we cultivate at the same time is critical thinking skills. So the problem with medicine is that there is no barrier. Medicine is a way of being. So then we decide that where the problem happens is when you decide to, I'm going to follow the orders and I'm going to make sure that my attending is happy. I get a good letter. When you take that same energy into your job as a physician afterwards, because that's what we're trained. For so long, we have that mind-body disconnect. That is where the training went. That's the problem when we take that and we copy paste those same skills into other roles, and we go out in the world with the pick me energy. We want the people to validate us, and we want to get all the awards and the recognition, and all of that needs to also happen again by the end of the hour. So that is really a problem. So while we don't have to throw out the baby with the bathwater, but we need to recognize what are critical thinking skills, where do I absolutely need to listen to my attendings, and then what is my own, who am I? What is my agency, and what can I do?
Right. We need to cultivate that in medical education as well. You and I have all the solutions for all of medicine. I'm kidding, obviously. We could talk for a long time about ways in which we could help improve the system. And listeners are going to be very curious right now. You became a fierce self-advocate. You identified this is an area within, I love medicine. Here's an area where I feel like I can thrive. You trained in it. So tell the listeners are going to know, how did that turn out for you?
It has been the most humbling and rewarding journey. Backtracking, when I was in my 13 teenage years, around that time, I read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens, and I went to my mom and I said, I want to become whatever this is. I want to do positive psychology and all things. She looked at me and she said, no, you're becoming a physician, and then you can do whatever else you want to do. And so this is that part of my life as well, where I am honoring that part of my journey. I would have come into coaching and behavior change and positive psychology because I never left it since I picked that first book. And it really helped me in so many different forms during medical education, understanding and this knowledge. Now I use this. For me, coaching is teaching other physicians advocacy skills. There's no other way around it. When you know how to be confident, how to be clear in your communication, how to set boundaries, how to stop people pleasing and still thrive, how to ask for rest, how to create your whatever purpose and fulfillment looks like in this season of your life, this is advocacy. And this is how we keep humans in healthcare. This is how we have thriving communities. So it has been a tremendously rewarding journey.
Yeah. Amna, you have been illuminated so much for listeners and soon-to-be listeners of your story around a very, very common challenge for all of us in healthcare. And most have experienced at least a piece of what you have talked about. And your articulation of how it was, what some of the central challenges for you, and also the approach to moving in a different direction, which is not easy. And there are no easy life hacks. Really appreciate your emphasizing that this takes work because we are wired differently when we leave residency. And so really appreciate your care and attention to sharing your story and really making it applicable to all of us in medicine. People are going to take a lot from this. And so with that statement, is there anything that I haven't asked you about that you feel is important for listeners to know?
I want to thank you for this opportunity to share. And I just want everyone who's tuning into this episode, whether you're in healthcare or outside of healthcare, be kind to yourself and give yourself a hug. That's what I would say to everyone. Know that you matter, that you're seen. If you're a clinician or work in healthcare, please seek help. You don't have to wait to get to the edge and be absolutely miserable. You've earned enough in misery years. You can ask for help. That's okay. And for those that are not in healthcare and they happen to listen to our conversation today, please go and send your clinician just a thank you note, a letter, a card, or a message on the EMR portal that you message them about everything else. That note of appreciation can actually save their life, and it means so much. So that's all I would add.
Thank you, Amna. I feel like you've just sent a hug to all healthcare professionals, and so for that, I thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Life-Changing Moments. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to rate us 5 stars and leave a review. Doing so helps our podcast reach more listeners. Have something to share? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Visit the MD Coaches community on Facebook groups. This dynamic virtual space is a place to continue discussion about life-changing moments and perhaps share some life-changing moments of your own. Join the conversation today.